Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Workflow Wonders. I'm your host, Alex Story, founder of Skill Mammoth, where we help businesses streamline their operations through automation, AI, and smart systems. So on this show, we dive deep into the workflows of business owners and leaders, tackling bottlenecks and finding ways to improve productivity with the goal to make those behind-the-scenes processes run smoother. So you as a viewer or a listener get access to a lot of the behind-the-scenes information of these different businesses. So if you are looking to get into business or just looking to upgrade your business processes, you can kind of see, kind of behind the scenes and learn from that. So today, I'm excited to have Justin Trantham, co-founder of FlowDevs, on the show. FlowDevs is all about helping businesses automate their workflows, similar to Skill Mammoth, and integrate the right tools to scale efficiently. We've partnered up on several projects. Justin, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Thanks, Alex, for having me.
Yeah, no, it is my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you here today. And I know I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, but I kind of want to tease the listeners here. We're going to be talking about agentic AI. We're going to be talking about how to partner with folks that have similar businesses to yours, and as well, of course, we're going to walk through your workflows and everything. But before we get into workflow optimization, tell us a little bit about FlowDevs. How did you get into automation and systems development?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. That we started in 2023, kind of around the Power Platform. So Microsoft released a tool, Power Automate. It was Microsoft Flow before, and then they kind of made Power Automate, and then the Power Platform as a whole was really when we were like, oh, this low code system is really going to kind of be the future of development, is what we thought. So me and my business partner Caleb at that time had decided to kind of start FlowDevs, and just because we knew that this would be kind of a niche in the market, and it's led us to where we are today. There's been a lot of ups and downs and, kind of interesting things in a newer market, kind of how do you fit in and things like that. But yeah, that was kind of the origination of FlowDevs, was Microsoft's Power Platform.
That's awesome. And one thing that I love about FlowDevs is you came into the business kind of knowing what you wanted to do and doing that thing. I don't really share the history of Skill Mammoth too often, I guess, but I think it. Like, we started like totally different. We started with doing learning development stuff, animated explainer videos, those kind of things, because that's what my background in instructional design was. But the thing that kept on happening was we'd work on a project, and then people would be more excited about the automation side of things, like how to automate that training and those videos than anything else. And we're like, okay, well, maybe we'll pivot to this. So I love that you saw the market potential and pursued it and didn't just stumble into it. So I have immense respect and appreciation for that.
Note on that, actually. I actually knew of you, Alex, before you probably knew of me from back in the days when you were doing a lot of those informational learnings. So
That's awesome.
yeah, no, I've definitely taken part in some of your awesome trainings as well. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I hopefully I did a good job. I imagine this is probably the Geek Squad days, right? When I was
Yeah, oh
a
yeah.
trainer.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Oh man, good old Agent 66010 reporting for duty here. Yeah. Oh man, miss Geek Squad. But at the same time, it's awesome to have my own business and kind of move on from that. So
Yeah. One philosophy I will say I took from Geek Squad was if you can fix it in 15 minutes, it's free. And that was kind of the philosophy that I really kind of, was strive to a lot of my life to be in this technology world, is like just connecting to people and giving them the first 15 minutes, kind of showing them what you can do. And then from there, build a partnership, right?
yeah, no, and I appreciate that as well. I think yeah, and I got the resolution code in my head, that GSHH for that quick fix and whatnot. But yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. And for everyone listening, there's a concept called, like, you want to lead with value. You want to give, and just because of the law of reciprocity, folks are then more willing to give to you. So if there's something that's very easy for you to do, try to do it for free, right? I'm not asking you to just give away the keys to the kingdom, but like Justin was saying, if it takes you less than 15 minutes, might as well just do it for somebody, and then they will most likely reciprocate. And at the bare minimum, you get a good review, right? So awesome. Now, keep in mind, I'm not Jeff Bezos over here. So.
Me neither. I wish. No.
You mentioned some ups and downs with FlowDevs as you were getting started. Like, what's the biggest challenge that you're running into, or that you're seeing that some of your clients run into, I guess?
It's an interesting question. I think right now it's kind of describing the question of AI and maybe low code tools and all of these different products that somebody could find themselves purchasing, using, and not kind of understanding, and then how FlowDevs, or how you can actually help these people utilize those tools, because not everyone kind of understands how Microsoft could talk to Google, could talk to, Zoom or whatever platform you use. But as kind of a more code centric thinker, you might be able to understand how businesses tools can interact. But we've struggled kind of just saying how valuable these integrations are, without showing it first, which it takes time to build.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of the reason why I use these Miro boards so often is because it's how do you show like automation? How do you show this workflow? And I mean, like with design, it's it's nice and clean. You got this really cool portfolio, you got the deliverables, and then maybe like after you fulfill stuff, you can talk about the case that hey, I saved this company 1,300 hours. We were able to triple their revenue, those kind of things. But yeah, you're right. It's tough to kind of condense it down to that elevator pitch. And one thing that you said kind of earlier in that when you were chatting, you were talking about the different tools, like that complexity and like how the market has got a million different tools these days. And I know the customers that I'm talking to, the problem they're running into is like, which one do we pick? Do we focus on the Copilot? Do we focus on ChatGPT? Do we focus on Gemini? Or even the million of other, like the more like boutique AI tools that are out there, like your napkins, your gammas, those kind of things. And I kind of want to tweak that a little bit because you and I, being in a similar situation, like in that automation support space, one thing that I'm running into is where do I focus? I know, I've been using, you use Power Automate a lot. I use make.com, but then there's Zapier, and is that something that you're running into where you're like, which tools do I focus on? Because how do I predict what I should support in the future and like what my clients are going to be working with? Is that something you run into?
Kind of. I'll answer that question strategically.
Okay.
We focus very strictly on the Microsoft ecosphere because the Microsoft offers all of those products kind of in one bill, which is where we've tried to stay. I have experience in the Microsoft Partner Center and purchasing licenses, so we're a Microsoft partner in that aspect, and we do make some revenue, but doing that. But we have run into a very similar experience, and to shorten it, I will say Microsoft versus Google. We have partners that work in Google, and you pretty much have to use a completely different tool set in that scenario.
Yeah, yeah, you're thinking like from like an org perspective, are they M365 or are they using or like G Suite kind of stuff? And one thing that you said, and we'll see if this makes a podcast because this might be a little bit too personal, but one of the reasons I don't focus on Power Automate in the Microsoft platform is a little bit because of the unique situation I am in my industry. Is I don't do Skill Mammoth. I mean, I do it full time. I put full time hours into it, but I have two jobs essentially. I'm a manager at an IT company that is a managed service provider. And one of the handshake deals that we had was, hey, if you're going to do Skill Mammoth stuff, you just can't do Microsoft stuff, right? Because that's what we do. And so I don't touch Power Automate. I try to, if clients are like, can you help me support with Microsoft? I'm like, no, let me point you at Justin because I don't want to get hit by a lawyer or anything, or, until I'm ready, good and ready to make Skill Mammoth my only job. I don't want to, have any risks. So that's big. And so I think that's awesome. That's a good focus. And I think, when we think about Microsoft, I think of enterprise. When I think of folks who are using Microsoft and M365, is that your primary customer?
No, actually not at all. We found that we help best between like 1 to 10 employees because a lot of the times you have kind of a leader in the business who knows what they want. And that's where FlowDevs can really help. The enterprises, it would be nice. We'd obviously make a lot more money doing a lot less work, especially in the Microsoft 365 space. But no, for us personally, because a lot of the times what we found is people are using GoDaddy. So somebody's using GoDaddy and they have their Microsoft licenses and all this and there. And, we can help move that into just the regular Microsoft license space. They usually end up saving a few bucks doing that anyways. And then you can explain kind of the value of the other tools that they have, like Power Apps, Power Automate, the Dataverse, now Copilot, which is insanely fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that's a really good point because I have GoDaddy and I remember, and I just signed up for M365 separately, but I remember they were like, when I signed up for it, they were like, do you want to get a Microsoft account? It's this much for this much. And I'm like, oh, cool. So that's a really good, I think, vector of, approaching those small and medium businesses is like, because everyone uses GoDaddy for their domain. So they're probably getting nudged into starting this for their workspace. and then boom, you can work with those folks. That's very interesting, and I think that's something I'll think about too. But that's really cool, man. All right, so let's just jump into your workflows, and then I
Yeah.
think with the last little bit, we'll jump into some of the more technical stuff. But I know the viewers love to get a look at at the workflow. So, and
Yeah.
by viewers, I mean like the 7 people who have
Hey, I'm one of them.
Hey, thank you, Justin. And but I'll take this as a moment. If you are one of like the dozens of viewers and listeners that we have here with Workflow Wonders, do me a huge favor and just give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, and if you want to go the extra mile, share us with other folks. Because that's how we spread. And folks learn about us. So please do that. Yeah. And I will be very happy. So cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll jump into just a Miro board. I'll share the link with you too via, do we have a Riverside chat? We'll see if we do that. Okay. And then that way you can kind of jump into this as well here.
I can just watch. We're good.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
I'll watch you click.
We'll watch then. So, all right. I like to always start with the beginning, the top of the funnel here on how you're getting your customers. So these are all the different ways, honestly, eventually maybe you want to focus on all these, but what I say for a lot of small and medium business owners, maximize it at maybe 3. Really, you should probably be focusing on 1 and putting all your effort into that. But, sometimes, it doesn't hurt to do referral networking and then also cold outreach, for example. But to you, Justin, we'll start from the top for the listeners because you can't see. Which one of these do you have? And for the listeners, I have on the page different ways you can get clients, like events, referral networking, cold outreach, organic content, thinking like social blogs, those kind of things. Paid ads. We have legacy work. So what I say with legacy work is, for example, with Skill Mammoth, sometimes people come up to me like, hey, can you design a course for me or things?
Interesting. We do a little bit of all of them. So like for events, I would say we do take part in a lot of just community events, not host events personally, but I think that that's a good way to build our referral network. And that's kind of where most of our clients are coming from right now, is we either know them or know somebody who does know them.
Okay.
We don't do cold outreach at all.
Okay. So no, not even email or like DMs or anything like that?
No, that is something we could possibly work on. I would say organic content is where I'm trying to be better as a leader in kind of the, in this sphere. I think that organic content is going to be the key, whether it's making YouTube videos, creating blog posts, driving the SEO to come to your site.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
awesome. That's good. So I'll pause and kind of talk about that. Like, I think I have been observing that you've been posting a lot more lately. And I remember just yesterday you were talking about, or maybe the day before, you were posting a lot of information that you learned about, OpenAI's deep research model, as you're kind of tinkering with that. And I think that's super important. Just anecdotally from my experience, I don't have a ton of followers on LinkedIn, but I've got about like 3,500, which is a decent growing amount. And it's enough to run a business and be pretty successful with it. So, for the listeners and the folks watching, it sucks at first because, just like this podcast, since we just started out, we're getting like dozens of views and whatnot, but eventually you'll get hundreds and eventually you get thousands. And, then those folks become like loyal fans. And, when they finally decide to buy from you, they already feel like they're working with you. So it's a lot easier to give them a proposal and for them to accept. So I love what you're doing, Justin. One thing that I'm very curious about is, what is your thought on founder-led social versus company-led social?
That is a good question, because I do take a lot of inspiration from how you go about your LinkedIn. And I think this is one way that we do differ. I personally want to take my name away from FlowDevs as much as possible. That's just a goal I have. I mean, yes, I want my name to be very strong in the industry, but I would prefer FlowDevs be kind of that beacon. The more us approach and kind of turning other people into thinking differently.
Yeah.
And that's a good, interesting. I don't know, but because I think you could post it too, and it might even be, then you have your referrals that are already, in your network, where FlowDevs only has 21 followers. So the reach that I get on my posts right now is, Caleb and I spent a few hours, taking pictures on a vacation we went. We posted that and got like 5 likes. And it's like, well, but the ROI on doing all that work was, not worth it.
It's one of those things where it's the it's like a snowball effect. Like you start slow and it keeps growing. So the one thing that I'd like to talk about when it comes to founder versus company one, and this is once again, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I don't have millions of followers, but when you look at the most successful companies out there, like Elon Musk right now is the most followed man on Twitter/X. And now whether that's legitimate or if he like kind of put his hand on the scales there on people following him, debated. We don't have an inside look at the black box that is Twitter. But I mean, he has way more followers than X itself or Tesla itself or any of the other businesses that he runs. You look at other, like founders out there of the biggest brands, they have a lot more. And so that has been, and then also if you look at the impressions on some of these businesses, like I know, I don't want to blast any, but companies that I've worked for in the past, you'll look at like they might have 10,000 followers, but they only get like a couple likes, and then that's it, right? And it's like, okay, and so my little almost superstition like brain when it comes to algorithms, I'm like, okay, maybe the algorithm weights people-led content a little bit more. Or it's just people engage with people, right? And I've heard that mantra kind of mentioned a lot more as people buy from people. So think about it. To your point, though, Justin, and to everyone listening, one thing you do have to think about as well is, let's say, a FlowDevs pops off, they've got buyers involved, and, FlowDevs is about to get bought by a company, and Justin's about to retire, and, wherever you want to live, and, just drink Grain Belt Premium every day, which is what I would do.
Beach, yep, grain
On the
belt on the
beach.
beach.
Exactly. So, the thing is, like, if he's the face of the business, it's much harder to make that sell at that maximum valuation, because they'll say, okay, with you exiting the company, we're going to lose some of our marketing arm, so we're going to value at like half maybe. And I'm not in any of these conversations, so these numbers are all just kind of for example. But
Might be helpful too is ideally right now we have 5 kind of managers at FlowDevs, but we
yeah,
plan to be fully employee owned. That's something that Caleb, my business partner, FlowDevs' his other half, is really kind of driven, and I like that
yeah,
idea to build loyalty, and kind of have a shared mission for our clients, and then because yeah, like you said, you can't do everything if you're there or not, and
exactly.
I love technology, so the more people that we can get into this, the better. So yeah.
Oh, I love that enthusiasm. That's so good. So, all right, I'm going to jump to cold outreach. You're not currently doing it.
Mm-mm.
You just said something that kind of made me kind of like spark up, because I think this might be something that you benefit from. One tool that I use, and I actually get, it's an insane ROI. I've sold probably about I've started using it, like I want to say in like January, and I've gotten about like $8,000 in sales from this, and it's completely automated. You have to set it up, but once it's done, you're good to go. It's a tool called Dripify. Have you heard of it?
No.
So Dripify is one of those LinkedIn automation tools. So basically, you plug in your LinkedIn, and you'll need Sales Navigator to make it work. So I think it's like $200 minimum for it to work. But the way it works is you build these sequences, and then you then you use your Sales Navigator search to say, like, I want to target, I don't know, people who own food trucks in New Mexico, right? However specific you want, with businesses 1 to 10, right? And then it'll send them a connection request. It'll view their profile. So they get the little, Alex has viewed your profile. It'll like a post. It'll endorse them for their different things, their skills on LinkedIn. Just kind of nudge them and trying to make them hit that accept connection request button. And then when they finally accept, then it sends them that message. And like you can slow it down. So Lanita, who's on a podcast episode from our last episode, what she does is she kind of spreads it out. So that first one is just thanks for connecting, and then waits a couple weeks before saying like, hey, by the way, this is what I do. Because once again, I'm sure you and I have experienced, I'm sure you have too, people when they DM out of the blue, they're just quickly trying to sell you something. It's like, I'm just going to delete you, right? So there's some
Yeah.
ways to kind of social sell with it, but also automate it. And one of the unique things about FlowDevs is you've got a pretty big group of folks, so you could scale that by quite a bit. And so for context, I get about 10% acceptance rate on that. So when I'm just sending this out automated. But one of the challenges with using Dripify is LinkedIn will ban you to high heaven if you start spamming people connection requests and messages. So you want to limit it to like maybe 25 a day that you're sending. So you can't really scale it as a solopreneur like me, I guess, whatever the grammar police would say. But with FlowDevs, you can do 5 times the output, right, with something like that. And that's something that I would check, and you get such a higher response when it comes to cold outreach with these LinkedIn messages. Like, just for context, with cold email, with a good campaign, you're getting like a 1% positive reply rate. With cold calling, with a good, sales development representative, you're getting a 3% positive reaction from those calls. So to get a 10% acceptance rate and like those positive conversations coming from it is pretty big. The only challenge is the scale. So I think, if I were you and in your business, that's something that I would tap into. Because, some people would say like being that top heavy could be a challenge. But I think this is one of the strengths of having like a larger sized kind of, founding core, right? Anyway.
Yeah. That's interesting. So then Dripify kind of sits in there, and then how would you turn those into sales? So would you just tailor the message then to what you're trying to get them to do, whether it's book a call or I
Yeah.
have this product?
Yeah, so maybe I'll do a video one day to kind of explain this, but I don't know what my message is. I don't want to dox anybody's personal information on screen. Otherwise, I'd pull it up and show you. But I think my messaging right now, I have a campaign for folks in home services. So I think I started out with just like, hey, like once they accept, it's like, hey, so and so, how's business doing for you? And I know right now, at least here in the Minnesotan winter, lots of folks in roofing and siding, it's kind of like their slow season. They're focusing on their business and they're focusing on getting leads. They're not necessarily focusing on doing the actual work because they can't, right? So, I'm asking those questions, and then so like, most people have time to respond, so they will to something like that, like how's your business, and then I follow up. So once they respond, that's when human Alex plugs in, and then I can go ahead and respond in, however I would. Whereas if they don't respond, then Dripify will send follow-up sequences based on that. And I do a low CTA, a very easy CTA, which is eventually I say, hey, do you want me to send you a video on the ways that I think I could help your company? And they're like, sure, man. Yes, I'll watch a video from you. I'm not asking to get on a call, just asking to send them a Loom video. And then that's when human Alex, once they respond, will then record the video, because I don't want to record one for everybody because I don't know if they're going to respond. Then I just usually do a quick little roast. So I'll go to their website, take a look at it, be like, hey, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. We could do all these things. By the way, I can just give you more information if you just want to get this free strategy call. And then they do that. And then, we end up partnering. So that's kind of a loose flow of what we do. And I know you automate, so you can make this even easier. Like when they reply, I get a push notification on my phone saying, hey, somebody replied, so I can get quickly back to LinkedIn to reply to it.
Yeah.
And then it also plops into my CRM as well. And so it makes it nice and easy to manage. My team's fairly small, it's just me, and then I have one business development representative, but he's activating on a lot of those follow-ups as well. So, I read somewhere that, if you respond to somebody within the first minute of them messaging you, you're 4 times more likely to make that sale. So
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, speed to lead is the name of the business for us. So anyway, sometimes when I get excited, I talk a lot. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just give you a moment, Justin, to kind of like, what are your thoughts on that? And like, do you have any questions, I guess?
Yeah, I do. And this is something I'm trying to figure out right now as well. Kind of the word channel and what channel definition is. Struggling. I don't know if struggling is the right word. I think our channel is too broad at FlowDevs. Like you had mentioned something that kind of made a point where you said we focus on home, doing roofing or whatever, being very specific on a group so we can recreate the automations and it's not nearly as expensive for repeat customers because you're not having to rework everything. But that is something that is a very interesting channel, and where FlowDevs fits into that is, we're trying to work with high volume, right? So where there needs to be automation, and we're still trying to figure out our channel, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I struggle with as well. And honestly, I started targeting home services because I have a lot of family members in that space, and I could speak a little. I've never done a hard day's work in my life. I'm such a geeky white collar guy. But my brother-in-law works in drywall. My father-in-law works in roofing and siding. He owns a roofing and siding company. My landscaping cousins, I have another uncle that owns a roofing company. Like it's just been part of my business. My grandpa, who I grew up with, who raised me, he's a blue collar union guy who worked at GM for 40 years. So I can speak some of the language, even if I can't, walk the walk. And, so that's kind of helped because I know, like, okay, I know some of their biggest pain points. That's helped me. So that's, if I could recommend that, is just like, if you have even semi inside access to one of these niches, like take that to your advantage, because I think that'll help you out considerably. And then go from there. Like I think that's, if you're looking for a channel, that's what I would do. And then also, if you find yourself just, as you're taking these discovery calls and making proposals and getting work, if you find that certain people are saying yes more and more often, maybe that's where you should focus. So
Yeah, that's I think where we do need to focus because yeah, we have a lot of people are confused with the work we do sometimes. So that's a lot of it too. How much discovery is needed, or do you even have a Microsoft account, or stuff like that really can save a lot of time.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big YouTuber in this space called Nick Sarayev, who if you haven't checked him out, you should. This is a big, everybody should check him out if you're into automation. But he has an automation YouTube channel, and in one of his videos, he talks about like the niches that you want to target in an like automation agency, and he mentions internet-based businesses can, like, the speed to execution is very easy because they already know a lot of that stuff that you're saying, like what a Microsoft account is, what tools they're using. They're using project management tools. They're using collaborative tools like Teams and Zoom and whatnot. They're using like AI tools, but they just don't know how to make them all talk to each other. So like that's something you could view too. All these internet-based businesses. I think the staffing, recruiting agencies, marketing agencies, etc. Now the challenge with that is everyone's also marketing to those people. So that's kind of, it's, but anyway, to jump back into the workflow, because I could talk about this forever. I made a lot of assumptions. I assume, after folks are interested in you, right? Whether they come from all these different sources,
Yeah,
if you have organic content, you probably have some sort of link or form that they fill out, whether like it's a link on FlowDevs, link on your page. That kind of, once they fill it out, you get more information. And then the big game for a lot of us in B2B is just to get them on a meeting. I assume that's what you do. And then you do a discovery call just to make sure they're the right fit. And how many calls do you typically do? Is it one or two, or do you do more than that?
we have like a scoping call,
Okay.
and that scoping call is an hour. Usually we can kind of get the scope done in an hour, but
Okay.
yeah, and then after that we try to get a retainer service so that we can start quoting and scoping and things like that. Just getting into the systems, get accounts, get passwords, start diving into
Okay.
the different systems, and then from there we'll quote the project. So one discovery call, but our goal with that call is really to get them to sign the retainer, because in our line of work we want to have the NDA and all that stuff
Yeah.
signed too. So because we're going to be in the systems looking at your customer data,
Mm-hmm.
and we're fine tuning the like. I think money is a good motivator to get people, both FlowDevs and other companies, on the hook too. I think sometimes when projects don't have scope or
Yeah.
monetary value for both companies, they just fall off. We're
Yeah.
working on that part, the middle part right there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's something that's a good point for folks to say this. Like, so it sounds like you're doing like a kind of intro offer. It sounds like where they're paying a little bit of money for you to kind of scope things out.
Mhm.
And then like once you scope it out, then they can proceed to go with you, or say like, oh, you know what, that is a lot more than I thought. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Or we can rework the project at that point, or it's really hours based. We just didn't want to sell hour packages, so we really try to break it down at like a
Hmm.
per hour cost that is so.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I love packages. It makes it nice and predictable, especially when it comes to recurring. From running a business, if you know exactly what your scope is, you know exactly how much you're getting for it, and how much time you spend on average for it, that'll help you build your business scale a lot quicker and a lot more smartly. Once again, grammar please come at me. But I think that's something that you should do. And it reminds me of something that I do called the transformation blueprint audit, is what we do. So it's kind of like what we do right now. What you and I are doing right now is a big part of what we do. Is we sit side by side, and like I look at their flows and their operations, and then I just say, okay, I think these are places where you can automate. And that service by itself is $4.99, but I do like a credit. So if they then decide like, okay, cool, you showed me how I can automate these things, now can you do it for me? That $4.99 goes towards the actual automation service. So
I like that.
yeah, so that's something that we've been doing, that's been working pretty well. And also for any of you, if you're in spaces like this, those intro offers kind of also give your clients a little bit of a way to kind of sample, right? It's the rotisserie chicken that you get at Costco, or I guess Costco's more famous for their little hot dog combo thing, right? But that's what it is, or their samples, right? This is what it is. It's getting their foot in the door at a very cheap price, so then they end up buying, bulk dog food or something, right? So to mix my metaphors.
Those discovery calls, like the free discovery calls, though, that's almost, I would say that is where like a lot of our like a lot of things are driven from that for us. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
because we're starting on the project usually at that time to start gaining. So yeah, even if it's an introductory offer or getting them on the phone for free to spend an hour with them, I think that that hour up front saves just so much time. And
Yeah. Yeah, you want to get that plan in place because, you don't want to surprise people and misalign their expectations too. Awesome. So you're doing the calls, you send proposals. What do you use for your proposals right now?
you sign is what we're using.
DocuSign. Nice. And you mentioned NDAs and stuff, so
Yeah, yep. So we use DocuSign, and then we also use Microsoft Loop. That was kind of the free option that we had. So we're building, like, we'll send the proposal in DocuSign, and it is a manual process right now. It won't be forever. It's just one of
yeah.
those low-hanging fruit automations. But yeah, so then we send the proposal, people sign, and then we manually copy the signed proposal into Loop.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah. And Loop, for those of you who don't know, it's if you're familiar with Notion, Loop is kind of Microsoft's answer to Notion. Very custom workspace, very collaborative. It's got a lot of the blend of those things. You can use it for task management, etc. And I think you can even use it in a way like a client portal. Am I not mistaken? Or
It's it's very complicated to make it work like that. But yes,
okay.
that is how we use it, and it is. Yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make it work for that, but it can be. It
There
can
are some
be.
hoops with Loop.
Yeah, you can jump right through though.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah. Well, I'd love to take a tour one day just because I've been curious. Once again, I'm, Microsoft NDA, but I know Loop is pretty cool and fancy, and it's kind of a shiny thing on the horizon. But awesome. So reputation management. So you do the work in fulfillment. You do a great job. How are you getting more reviews?
That's a great question. That is one that we need. I was actually thinking about that as I've been listening to other ones. It's like we don't have an offboarding process, is what I think of that
Mm,
reputation management. But yeah, right now it's done through emails. We do use Business Central, which is kind of like a ticket system, but I
yeah.
wouldn't say it's stamped as the gold standard or anything.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. So I think, yeah, obviously that's something to plug into. We don't have a ton of reviews. I think we probably have 11 total reviews on SkillMap between all of our different places. And I think, there's been some things that we've tried to get people to give more reviews because we do the service and they're like, hey, give us a review. It helps us out. And so we've tried things like giving away swag. So we'll say, hey, if you answer this and send us a screenshot, we'll give you some swag. And, to middling results. But yeah, I think that's the name of the game, especially in these cases with these high ticket items. People want to see what others have experienced. So yeah, having something there is useful. One thing that this is something that I'm going to adopt from one of my clients. It's a little bit different, but what he does to get reviews on his company, it's a roofing company out in Ohio, is like when they're done, he literally will sit there with the client and put and if you ever need it, text over to your phone, open that up. That's our review link. You can review us right on Google, right? Kind of reducing that friction. I think that is the name of the game. Like when I think of anytime anyone's ever asked me to review anything, like whether it's from Taco Bell, giving me a receipt, be like, hey, circling that thing, I'm like, I have to type that in my phone. I'm not doing that, right? So I think I think that's something that I kind of want to adopt. I don't know how that shows up in a digital space like you and I are in typically, because but I wonder if there is a way to kind of marry that. Hey, here's the review. We'd appreciate it. It helps us out, helps us grow. You had a great experience. Let's make sure other folks have great experiences. Because I think that visibility is huge. Plus, it gets you case studies. It gets you stuff you can put on your website. It gives you quotes that you can use. Those are super powerful. So that's more of me just kind of like ideating. I guess what are your thoughts? Like like when you're envisioning the future about FlowDevs kind of does a reputation management, what does that look like for you?
I want it to be hands off. That's kind of haven't quite found a solution yet that is genuine enough to be hands off. I like some of the genuineness. I think you hit on it with the digital world. Like if you think about the physical world, like we've worked with NFC card things for people's phones where you just put a
Yeah.
link on there, or maybe it is sending somebody a text, but even then it's like then that person has to go click. And especially when you're already just in a Teams meeting or something like that, a ticket, follow this link and do this. But when they are high ticket items, you might only have, 1 or 2 projects a month. You really need to make sure that you're converting those into something so other
Yeah.
people can see it. But I haven't found a good answer yet. I mean, AI would be helpful if you could have something email, but then is it genuine then? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say what we do is right now we send out a fill out form after the project is completed. And if it's a good review, we send them a hey, link to all of our things, like us on Clutch, like us on Google review, our two biggest focuses. We are on Trustpilot and a couple other ones. And by the way, I recommend everyone gets on every review site, because that is how, when somebody searches your name, that you pop up on Google or whatever search engines. You got to be everywhere. But focus on only a couple, because otherwise you'll be too diluted. But that's what we do. And then we pepper them. So if they give us a good review in the internal review, then we'll send them 3 follow-ups. And if they don't, then we just kind of fall off. Maybe I should be a little bit more militant about that.
So you have some sort of like intro, kind of human, here's the forum, go fill out the forum.
Yeah.
I would say fill it out. It's like, oh, if this is above a 7 or something, then send them just repetition.
Yeah, and I wonder if, we don't have to get in the weeds, but that is something that I think that has helped quite a bit. But I ask every single time too. That is something that I think a lot of businesses forget to do as well. It's so easy to ask. And even for my Geek Squad days, right? Folks just don't ask. Just ask them to take the survey. You're not forcing them. You're just saying, hey, can you do that for me, please? And another thing that you can do as well is, when it comes to testimonials, at least, maybe not quite getting reviews, is, just ask them on the call, maybe that final like debrief call after you complete the project. Because like when I finish an automation, I typically do a side-by-side just showing them how to use it when I hand it off. During that call, be like, hey, how do you feel? What do you think about it? And then if you're using Copilot, for example, have a meeting recorded, and then you can use that transcript later on. And be transparent about it. But like, do you mind if I quote you on that? If I put that on the website? Unless they're, I don't want to swear, but like they're meanie bobeanies, right? Unless they're those types of folks, which you're not typically going to interact with as a client at that point, they're not going to say no. And so, they'll typically say, yes, feel free to share. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your workflow. So thanks for sharing your workflow. Hopefully you learned a lot. The listeners and viewers learned a lot. And then, I definitely want to check out some of the things that you're doing, especially with the systems call. I think that's something that we could adopt at Skill Mammoth, and learn a little bit more from that. And I really like also the NDA thing. That's something I've never done really before. Maybe we should, because you're right. I am embedding in their systems, and that can, be a little spicy.
Shout out to Paul too. You had Paul on here. So yeah, that's a part of all of that, is just to make sure, we want to make sure that our customers are secure and we are secure to whatever ability we can be. And if our customer, it honestly protects us more from our customers in this scenario than ourselves, because I trust everyone, who we work with internally. But if somebody gets like breached or something, we just want to make sure that we're safe and our customers and clients are safe too.
Yeah, no, that's super important. So perfect. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I would love to dive into some of the stuff that you've been doing with Agentic AI. So I guess that's a broad topic, but I guess first off, can you define in your words, what is Agentic AI to you?
Yeah, so an Agentic AI would be a large language model. I'm going to define that too. So a large language model is, there's ChatGPTs, there's GPT 4.5 they just released, GPT-4, GPT-4o, 3.5, then there's Claude, then there's Anthropic, then there's all these. So when I use the word AI or large language model, I'm talking, a lot of these can be used interchangeably. The agentic approach to a large language model allows you to integrate tools or functions into the conversation. That's where a lot of people kind of go when they talk about that. Well, when I talk about a tool, large language models were trained on the information that was around the internet previously. It won't know what happened today. It won't know what somebody puts in a blog post in 5 minutes from now. But you can connect it to a tool like Bing Search, like Microsoft does with their Bing Copilot. So that would technically be an agent, because the large language model, GPT-4, is connecting then to the internet. To go less, it could go more into the weeds here, but just to focus on the agentic approach, it then grabs all of that information and keeps it in one conversation. So it can use and relay that information back to you. Now, where I think that's really cool to consumers, an example of something that we used recently for QuickBooks, because we do offer a QuickBooks update software, but QuickBooks updates their websites and their versions often. What happens when you do that, you have to go to their website, look at it, check to make sure what version you're doing is the same as the one that you had before. Well, now with an agentic AI using ChatGPT and tasks, every day we have that agent, because I told it to go understand what it needed to do to figure out what QuickBooks needed to update. It checks every day now to see if QuickBooks did update. So something that simple now, I have basically a colleague, an agent that checks every single day if this thing happened. Right now, it really only works for things you could do on the internet, but I truly envision that something like this could do something to like control your computer. And if you could have an agent control your computer, it could learn and do anything.
Yeah, I know a year or so back, what was it? Power Automate has a version of that.
Yeah, they do actually. So now here's a very interesting Copilot that I set up at my other hat too. So the Copilot agent is actually very simple. You go into Copilot Studio, you create a new agent. It automatically integrates with GPT if you're using the low code solution. So it'll automatically use like GPT 4.0. You don't really get a lot of options to choose what models there. But then the tools that it already has access to is Power Automate. So I have a Power Automate flow that says, I want to look at this ticket number is what the user says. It goes and does an API call to the ticketing system, which is like a bunch of JSON, which is just data, like a CSV file. And then the large language model then interprets all of that and then presents a non-technical user where like the status. And I call it Agent Cody Banks, if you have heard of like, the old, it's Agent Cody Banks. But
Frankie Muniz, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. It's really exciting stuff. I think, and a lot of it is just providing that to the consumers and just showing them like, hey, are you already using files in SharePoint? Well, guess what? Now you can have an AI do a vector search on millions of files and it'll tell you exactly and reference where it found it.
Yeah. No, that's so awesome. So agentic AI to me.
Yeah.
So, because you say it in a very much more technically proficient way than I probably would have. No, it's good. No, it's good. In my trainer brain, though, I'm always like explained to it like a 5th grade reading level. The way I would say it, it's like basically AI. You've used ChatGPT. I'm sure anyone listening has used ChatGPT, and basically it's you prompt it, then it responds. Agentic AI, even on top of automation, because you can also automate it to kind of like check something every once in a while using like different tools like Zapier and whatnot. But agentic AI doesn't just go through like a flow. It'll decide. It'll make decisions on its own on where to go. So it might say like, I'll try to think of like a good example. If we say like, for example, in your case where it was like checking to see like the updated API documentation for QuickBooks or whatever, like it doesn't just take like something from a particular part of that. It'll look through the whole thing. It'll find it. Then it'll go into, I assume, like another tool then to kind of update whatever that is. That is super huge. And, the doom and gloom folks are like, it's going to take all of our jobs. But I like what you said earlier. It's like having a colleague, like an assistant, somebody who's able to do it. Like the AI futurists are like, okay, now it's you just have somebody helping you out. When you can go watch TV, they can do all that, those check-ins for you.
I'll give you a really good example of one of the blog posts that it's completely AI written, but I did deep research, and this is a very technical topic. It's hard to, but like there's two different things. You can imagine anything, cats versus dogs.
Yeah.
Well, it's the example I'll use. I said, tell me the difference between cats and dogs. And then it's like, well, what type of cats? All cats. What type of dogs? Well, larger dogs. Where are the dogs from? So it asks you one more prompt, kind of what to specify. And then you just walk away. You walk away for 30 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes. You come back and there's a research document with citations to the websites it founded its knowledge in, just waiting there for you. And you don't, I would say don't read it as the gospel, but it definitely gives someone like me who has sometimes too many things to think about a place to start.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I have, that's such a huge use case. And like, maybe I should, is Deep Research, is that available on Plus right now, or do you have to get Pro?
I don't know. We do the business one, which might be. No, it is Plus, because Pro's the $200 a month and we don't have the $200. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay, good.
That one is.
All right, I'll check it out because every week, I have a dedicated time slot where I'm just doing research because you kind of have to in this industry, to stay up to date on things. And maybe now I can have a little minion kind of do those things for me. So
Percent. I do it when
yeah,
I do it like I'm about to go into a meeting or something. I had to check like, yeah, anything. And then, yeah, don't use it as the gospel, but I think it's a great place to start like a research paper.
yeah, and I love the citations. It sounds like a grown up, like it sounds like if Perplexity was kind of baby mode, it seems like deep research is like Omega mode. So, Perplexity, if you use it, it does kind of do citations and stuff. So you can get a little bit more. You can be like, okay, let me verify if this source is just somebody trying to sell me something, or is it like an actual like research like thing or whatever. But no, that's awesome, man.
I want to cover one other thing you said, because this is the other part
Sure.
that the doom and gloom, or I'm more on the gloom side. When the agentic AI can also call other AI. That's
Yeah.
where, so as AI gets bigger and better, you might have a bigger AI call, all of these little AIs. So it's really interesting. And I'm a part of a lot of Discord groups with Microsoft and other, open source communities out there, just watching what these people are doing because it's so fun.
Yeah. No, and I've already seen, like you mentioned blog posts earlier. Like you could do that, like have like little mini AIs that, okay, you're focusing on the intro, you're focusing on section one, you're focusing on finding backlinks to high domain articles. This AI, you're focused on finding all of our internal links, so we link to other pages so they stay on the site longer, so we get longer dwell time. You're focused on finding images, and then you have the agent AI just say, okay, like we're gonna make a blog post about, we'll use cats and dogs for your example from earlier, and then all the little minions kind of compile, and that way they can be a little bit more strategic, so you don't end up with some of these like super generic, like very we've all seen AI written blog posts, right? So but like with if you get the whole team together, right, you get the Avengers of blog posts together, you can make it look very nice and very professional and close to, if not better than, a similar human article. So awesome, man. Like I know in the interest of time, because we went a little bit later, I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions because I think these are super helpful. So the first one is, when you look at your personal life, a la Click, I guess, with Adam Sandler here, what is one process in your life, your personal life, that you'd love to automate if you could?
Mail, the government. No. Yeah, I mean, right now, not a lot. I think there's the offboarding process for FlowDevs would be nice, but my personal life, no, it's really like if I could get rid of USPS and just have stuff just appear in my house, I would be ever
Yeah, I
grateful.
guess teleportation is a way of automating travel. Yeah, so that works. That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I think Jim. If I could just
Yeah.
look amazing without any of the effort and just have Robot Alex do it for me.
Have you have you seen the do you watch Rick and Morty?
I've watched like the first couple seasons, and then I kind of like, I don't know why I just stopped watching. I think it just took them too long to make like the third season. I just kind of just never came back. But so I
There's an
watched some.
episode
I
where
might have
they
any reference.
where they're awake, and then when they're asleep, and when they're asleep, that's when they do all they like wake up, and that's when they work out. That's when they're asleep, so that way they don't have to do it when they're awake.
Hey man, that's dope. I feel like I'd wake up tired as hell, but then that might be, hey, at least I'm sleeping through my workout. That's dope. That's cool. Awesome. So on top of that, what is your, thinking back to the business, what's your go-to productivity hack?
YouTube.
Yep. No, that's it. I think as someone who has been paid a ton of money to build courses and facilitate training and make videos, you can learn probably 90% of that just by going to YouTube, man. It is so useful, especially when it comes to technical things like you and I deal with. And this is something to kind of branch off a little bit. This is why it's important to make sure that when you're picking the tools that you're using, they're not like the tiniest tools known to man, and there's no YouTube videos about it. If you pick something big like a Copilot, like a ChatGPT, like a Zapier or Make.com, you can find any video ever about it. So if you ever get stuck, you have something to learn from. But no, they're great resources, and I think they get right to the point. To give myself a little bit of credit, where instructional design and like custom training kind of comes in is when it's a very specific use case. This is how we use X tool at Y company. That's when it gets very useful. But like, for just learning stuff, getting deep in the weeds, I 100% agree with you. YouTube is how I've learned so much about business, about life. We redid our bathroom all by ourselves, saved like $10,000. But yeah,
I will
awesome,
say
man.
the other thing too is like following people like you on LinkedIn. I really do. I'm not a social media person. I don't have a Facebook. I don't dabble in Twitter or things like that, but I do genuinely enjoy looking at your LinkedIn posts, liking, commenting.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, but I mean that's also the place where you can follow like Microsoft's product engineers and ChatGPT. It's like where else are you going to see exactly what these guys are posting online except for right here? And it's not like the fluff you would see on Facebook or Twitter or something. It's like actually people tend to keep it more professional there, which I enjoy.
Yeah. You get to kind of cut through some of the noise, and like, you don't have you don't have models trying to get you to sign up for their website. You don't have like random people spreading in misinformation and whatnot. It is, you're right. There is a little bit of a kind of like we walled ourselves off for from the unserious part of the internet. But I mean, there's still some of that. It's kind of creeping
Yeah,
in. But that's awesome, man. Pleasure talking to you today. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights and walking us through FlowDevs workflow. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about what you do or get in touch with you in the FlowDev squad, where can they find you?
FlowDevs.
Awesome. Anything you promoting right now specifically? Like, you got any promotions going on that the folks should know about?
We're working on cool stuff. Hopefully we'll release some new software soon that more people will be able to use. But yeah, there's a lot in the works right now. So real excited. Thank you so much, Alex.
No, it has been my pleasure, Justin. And to all of our listeners, thanks for tuning into another episode of Workflow Wonders. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to do all the things, right? Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Share this. I'm going to give you homework. Share this with 5 people, not even one person. Share with 5 people, and I'll be happy. And, you'll be happy too, because you got to help out Alex with his little podcast. So awesome. Well, until next time, keep refining those workflows and, watch that productivity soar. Bye for now, everybody.